everyone knows that law school is expensive, but I don't think that everyone understands just how expensive it is. This video is going to talk exactly about that. We're going to break down some numbers and tell you just how much law school actually costs. Doc from Barcast Audio here today to talk with you about how much law school actually costs. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more of these videos. Now, let's talk now about the cost of law school. As I mentioned before, everyone knows that law school is expensive, but recently Law School Transparency came out with some numbers that give you a real glimpse into just how expensive law school actually is. As of 2023, according to Law School Transparency, the average cost of 3 years of law school was $220,000. Now, the vast majority of those numbers are coming from law school tuition. Law school tuition was coming out to about $146,000 on average over the course of 3 years, with another $75,000 plus coming from living expenses. Now, those numbers are going to vary significantly depending upon what school you go to, but generally it breaks down to something like $48,000 per year in tuition costs, as well as another $24,000 to $25,000 per year in living expenses. Now, obviously, those numbers are going to differ significantly depending upon whether you're going to a public school or a private school. The difference between tuition costs at a public university versus a private university come out to around $60,000 over the course of your law school career, closer to about $63,000 if you want to be precise about it. So that means if you're going to private school, on average, you're spending about $63,000 more than your public school counterparts in the law school process. So what is the most expensive law school in the entire country? The answer to that is very simply Columbia Law School. Columbia Law School tuition comes out to about $78,000 per year. Now, the least expensive law school in the country, according to Law School Transparency, is Inter-American University, where the tuition per year comes out to around $12,000. When you include cost of living expenses, the most expensive university in the entire country is Stanford University, because you can add an additional $46,000 in average annual living costs to your tuition bill. Now, by contrast, again, if you add cost of living, the University of North Dakota actually has the lowest cost of living expenses of any university in the country. Now, of course, many of these costs are covered by scholarships, but not all of them. And one major issue at play here is the idea of conditional scholarships. Now, fortunately for law students, conditional scholarships are sort of a thing of the past. They're sort of being phased out by universities. But historically, students would receive a scholarship conditional on the idea that they stay in a certain percentage of the school, of the class. The ranking was within a certain percentage, or they meet certain academic benchmarks. The problem was that it was a zero-sum game. Not every student who received those scholarships could retain those scholarships over the course of their law school career. So a lot of students would essentially start down this law school path thinking they had a certain level of financial support with scholarship support, but due to their conditional scholarships being pulled, they would end up footing the bill for the later part of law school. So as I mentioned, these conditional scholarships are sort of going away. Between 2011 and 2012, 61% of law school students were on a conditional scholarship. As recently as 2019 to 2020, only 39% of law schools had conditional scholarships. Again, as of 2011 into 2012, about 36% of law students lost their conditional scholarships at one point in their law school career. Now, as of 2019 into 2020, that number was down to 27.8%. So the key takeaway here is that law schools are giving out less conditional scholarships, and students are losing conditional scholarships less frequently than they were about 10 to 12 years ago. One of the most important things I saw amongst these law school transparency numbers was this stat from 2018, which found that 29% of law school students received institutional grants or scholarships that paid off at least half of their law school tuition. So those are some of the nitty-gritty numbers of law school costs. But you also have to factor in the cost of books, which come out to a couple $100s per semester, if not more, closer to $1,000, especially in your first year of law school. On top of that, the cost of a bar prep course. Bar prep courses can go from anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, depending upon what package you seek. I know that some law schools are now rolling the cost of a bar prep course into their tuition cost. My former alma mater does that now, but Other schools are sort of leaving you to foot the bill at the end of your law school career. You'll have a couple choices as to what course you want to pursue, but ultimately it's going to be another additional cost at the end of your law school career, as well as the fact that you were unable to work for most of law school. There are ABA rules with regard to full-time work for most students. If you are a full-time student, with regard to part-time work, you're only allowed to work a certain number of hours. So there is an additional cost here in terms of lost wages over the course of 3 years, as well as lost wages for the period after law school where you're studying for the bar, where you cannot really work during that period. You're sort of expected to study full-time. And if you are going to law school, be sure to check out barcastaudio.com. We will help you get through the law school process. We will help you score well enough to decide how you can pursue your legal career to ensure that you keep your conditional scholarship. Whatever we can do, we will do. Check us out at barcastaudio.com.